Adam, what's up?
What is up, y'all? Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. How's your holiday started so far?
Yeah. It's nice, man. It's good Monday in crypto, so that's always a plus.
It hasn't been green for so long. Holy smokes! Well, yeah. And listen, there was a lot of chaos over the weekend. Don't expect that to go unrewarded. I think there's some hedge funds that no longer exist. I heard that a lot of I knew there was going to be some kinds of bailouts, and it looks like there were some bailouts, but we don't know all the details. Some people are saying that FTX started bailing people out, and that maybe Kraken was bailing people out, and that maybe even Coinbase was bailing people out. So we'll see. All that'll come out in the future. Let's say hello to a few people before we get started. Let's say, Ella Paul, what's going on? Joe, ¿qué onda? Espero que todo está bien para vosotros y su familia. Bueno. Y Demayan, what's up, man? Spy Cam, what's up? Bitcoin Candy. A little nod to Maxine Waters. Florida Dan, what's up? So did I miss anything? Nope, you didn't miss anything. It's just that the whole market kind of continued to melt down. I think they said it was the first time they've had 12 days in a row, Bitcoin negative, like 12 days down. So that's just people getting melted out of the market, in my opinion. I don't know. We'll see. It looks like that was big money selling. Did you know that the big crash over the weekend was one sale of 653 or either 653 or 654 Bitcoin on Coinbase Pro?
Wow, somebody just dumped all at once because they hate themselves.
That's not even that much.
It's not.
600 and something Bitcoin is just not that much. I mean, it's a much to us. It's not much to the market,
especially on a larger exchange like Coinbase. Yeah,
these are anemic markets. And when you have anemic markets, this is what you can get. And it's important to understand that that's not indicative of the greater space. An anemic market situation, what's going on these illiquid exchanges is not really showing you what's going on as far as on the developmental side, like we'll talk about just a bit. Some douchebag guy who's got like 26 followers on Twitter had a fight. He's a VC, by the way. He's a VC.
Okay.
He's VC with 26 followers, VC. And he was saying how Cardano is all fake. It's ghostware. And I think I messaged him. I said, before you say stuff like that, just go look at their GitHub repo. And then I said, well, actually, I need to tell you what a GitHub repo is because clearly you don't know anything about anything. And then I started going off into this long thing where so I just erased the whole message and said, forget it. You're never going to convince an idiot he's an idiot.
Yeah, let him just die on the vine.
Yeah, let him die. He's a VC. He missed it. A lot of people missed and look, everybody's been given a second chance, a third chance, a 17th chance. We just reset the markets a year back, more than a year.
Yeah.
So it's like anybody that thought they missed it, they have like a million more chances. We'll see.
Yeah, and I was reading your headline, like, 500% in 2 years, which sounds crazy. And you're like, no, wait, that's just the $3 Cardano. That's the $3 ADA.
That's just back to where we were in November.
Yeah, right.
And that's what my contention is. If you look at November prices and you have a basic assumption, we'll get into it in a second. But if you have just a very weak assumption, and it is weak because it's forward looking, but I don't think crypto's dead. And if the whole crypto thing's not dead and the whole goddamn thing doesn't roll over and bend the knee, then it seems reasonable that we will get back to some levels. Valeri, what's going on? Hooday, Joe Pirate, CC Brown, Gordon Bennett, Danny, what up, Danny? Let's see. Solana. This thing it's the biggest. It's a dumpster fire. It's like when you're walking and your hair's on fire and your clothes are on fire and your feet are on fire and you're in hell. Have you been following what's going on?
Oh, I have, man. It's like grandma, don't put your money in that box in the casino. She's like, but it makes all the shiny lights and good noises, and I can't help myself. And it's like, all right, grandma, just keep putting your money over there in that crazy casino coin. I mean, they're just pilfering people over there shamelessly.
They're pilfering and they're laughing. If you see these devs on their little podcasts and stuff, they're so arrogant, these dickheads. They're laughing at everyone else. They're laughing at their own investors.
Yeah.
They're laughing in your face. So it's like, God, you get what you get. I mean, it sucks. I hate to see people lose money, but at this point, if you lose money in Solana, you get what you get. Like you get what you get. So people who like Gordon, okay, you bounced out at the top. Awesome. See, that's the play. If you know a coin is junk, that's cool, but understand what you're dealing with. Understand that it's toxic. Ride it a little bit. And I don't do that because I have a different concern, like for clients and stuff like that. And I can't really risk like that. I'd rather miss a run rather than be involved in a sketch project. But on the other side of it, if you're a trader like Gordon and you think you have you kind of have a grasp of it and you know what you're dealing with, you know it's toxic. I mean, there's a lot of people in the equity space that play toxic assets. They know they're going to get blown up, but they ride the momentum. I mean, it's not for me, but I'm not a hater. And if you can do that, it's just very tricky, right? Because who knows? Only one person picks the top, right?
Yeah, it's like playing a game of chicken with real high consequences, you know.
Yeah, and I think that was smart, Gordon. The second network outage, you had to roll out. For me, it was when the developers got busted stealing $1 billion worth of tokens, and then it was going and reading about how they lied to CoinMarketCap about their actual market cap and about how many tokens. And then you just realize, look at the VCs involved. Every step of the way, this looks really it looks really dangerous. Anyway, Krabby, what's going on? Debbie, Tiffany, Chris, what up, Chris from Florida? Josie, Nara, and let me say hello over on, because we're on Twitter Spaces, by the way, for those of you that are driving or you don't want to look at our gross faces, me and Adam, because we have we're gross-faced Nick, gross-faced Adam. You don't want to see us and be repulsed on this fine holiday, then you can go to Twitter Spaces. A difference, Phil, Grace, Jay, it doesn't show me the whole name. Morton, Frank, D Rose, Carol, hello to you all, to you all. Okay, let me keep going. Crypto Amigos, what's going on? Bunny, what up, Bunny? Vinny, what's up? And Florida Dan, Michael, Josie. I know I'm getting some of you twice. Some of you're so good. I gotta say hello twice. Belinda Cook, what's going on? David E, what's up, David? Michael, what's up, Mike? Clint, YOLO, nephew, what up, nephew? Dino Don, what's going on, Don? Catching up from week trip to Puerto Rico. Oh, nice. Joe, I'm. You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you, Joe. I'm kind of hating on you right now, but you got the Banksy. You got the Banksy avatar, so I'm not. That's your saving grace. You uncanceled yourself. Let's see, and we got Jim, Michael, Tubin, Expat, Sylvia. Okay, so hello, peeps. All right, there's only one rule. If you want to keep this video up, regardless of how much profanity units I use, the only rule is this. Tyson, what's up, Tyson? Whatever the max number of live viewers, we have to have at least 50% likes. You guys know we don't monetize the videos. We don't care about all that, but you got to give us a video. What is it like? The equivalent of a hug, right? Profanity units. That's so there we go. Okay. So we're at 44. So we have to have at least 22 likes. I let the people decide. That's all we do.
22 approval metrics. You know, it's right. You got to keep it measurable.
So here's what we're going to do. Adam, let's go and let's play our little bumper and then we'll get started. I want to hear about what's going on in your world, what's going on in the Cardano ecosystem. I know we're days away from upgrades now, right? Like days.
We're 9 days away from a Vassal hard fork. Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. Okay. So let's go and do our non-commercial break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about a little bit of Cardano news. Then I'm going to tell you guys my crazy harebrained idea for, I think, a 5X based on some weak assumptions, forward looking. And then we'll see what Adam thinks about this crazy theory. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, Adam. So what's going on in your world? First, give us an update. What's going on in Adam world from your perspective, and then from the perspective of a stake pool operator.
Yeah. So, I mean, actually, in my world in automotive, like we're run a lot of the software, different platforms for automotive, but that's getting just beat up right now with 6% real interest, but on these highlining vehicles, it's like 9-10%. So the whole market's crumbling over there. And I mean, if you wanted to buy any vehicle north of 80 grand in the next 3-4 months is probably your best window. And Nick, I know you're in that world too. But yeah, so I mean, just a lot of big knock-on effects. I think the automotive industry and housing industry are the two big players that will be affected by a little bit of interest rate spike. But yeah, on the Cardano side, I think this hard fork is going to be big because even though Cardano kind of had this plan where they're big on security and knew that scaling wasn't going to come later, it doesn't stop people from complaining, and nobody likes waiting a day for the transaction to hit. So the SIP 31, 32, 33 that are all hitting in these next few epochs.
And when you say SIP, you're referring to Cardano improvement proposals, right?
Thank you. Yes. So, and without getting into the technicals, the biggest thing is that it's going to reduce the amount of data you have to send through in each contract. So whenever you make an exchange or a swap or something more extravagant, much less data, much lighter, thinner, so which will allow a lot more contracts and data to be sent through on each block, which means faster throughput, pipelining, that type of thing. And the nice thing is this even opens up for even more improvements, more pipelining improvements without even having to have a hard fork, which was already pretty easy.
Do you want to explain? A lot of people don't realize when you hear about a Cardano hard fork, it's a hard fork in a non-traditional sense. That's just a cognitive way to understand it, because there's no moment where coins are swapped out and there's two chains and all that. It's these are backwards facing and they're retroactive. Essentially, once the hard fork happens, everything is done. There's no dangerous moment in a hard fork in Cardano.
Yeah, I really wish they would have chose a different term. They should have made up a term, but yeah, hard fork really is
trans fork.
Yeah, a gentle fork.
Yeah, a spork perhaps.
A spork, the Cardano spork. But yeah, I mean, users have to do nothing. Developers even have months and months of a time window to even implement these upgrades here. So it's really at their disposal, starting on July 4th with the improvements to Plutus. So I mean, this is going to take a while. I mean, I'd assume we don't even see real changes until mid-July, as far as all the way down to the user basis. But these are the type of improvements that now need to happen as we're focusing on scale.
So these improvements, they are important to set up to lay the foundation for Hydra at some point, right?
Absolutely. And these are nice, great scaling improvements in the meantime, in the interim.
So these kinds of things. And can you briefly describe Hydra just so people can kind of understand? I mean, from the way I understand it as a dummy, is that the stake pool operators themselves would be able to handle about 1,000 transactions. Ergo, for every 1,000 stake pools that are active and alive, you have about 1 million transaction per second throughput potential. Obviously, never mind the kind of log jams that the internet itself assumptively provides, like the on-ramps and off-ramps for internet and connectivity and things like that. There is a little gumminess there, but for the most part, right? Is that am I understanding it correctly?
Yeah, and it's huge how many, and the other massive improvement when you're looking at Cardano is just how many transactions you can fit in one block. It's not like, one transaction per block. It's going to be even blocks inside blocks and then transactions inside that block that's inside a block. So what I'm trying to say is that they're not just trying to increase the amount of blocks they can make like you would see normally of what Bitcoin deals with. They can get even why this helps making smaller and smaller data amounts is then you can even have hundreds of thousands of transactions all put inside one block. Is where they're headed. And then the other big massive thing that's coming pretty quickly is input endorsers. And all that means is that there'll be a window when the network is congested that they can then come in later and update the block at a later point, and they'll be given this time window that'll happen. And input endorsers are a major part of Hydra. And all that means is there'll be stake pools that can confirm transactions before they're actually added to the block, and there'll be this window so that the congestion is more evenly spread out.
So it's kind of like ameliorating a traffic jam by just taking the traffic jam out of the traffic, like taking all those cars that are jammed up, lifting them up, letting everyone else go, and then kind of sprinkling them back in or something.
Yeah, totally. So like, it's instead of having a rush hour at 5 o'clock, let's just take half those cars out and we'll run them through at midnight. It's a great metaphor.
But yet they get home early.
Yeah.
So
the
people
and
are home.
the transaction can go through there and get home early. Yeah. And the great thing is where it's not why this would just be such a big struggle on Ethereum is because you can't confirm the transaction before it's done, where in Cardano you can. So there's no such thing as a failed transaction that you then actually have to pay for. So this can be pre-confirmed, pre-done, and already set up and finalized even before it's added to the block.
So Gordon over here on Theta, Gordon was asking a question for Adam. Is any other protocol able to hard fork seamlessly like this? So that's a good question, right? I mean, my guess would be maybe DOT, right? Because, and the only reason I say that is because they took the consensus mechanism from, I mean, they're borrowing, whatever you want to call it. It's open source, but they're using the same Ouroboros consensus mechanism that Cardano created, right? So I wonder if Polkadot has these kind of backwards, kind of compatible instantaneous fork functionality.
Yeah. I mean, the answer is I don't know. I mean, the other place where I would guess would be looking at Algorand. I mean, they seem to be the other brains running around here,
Do you think, this is kind of an off-topic question, but maybe it moves us over into markets. Do you think that the A's, right, are kind of, the Bitcoin maxis are going to roll over in their grave, but do you think the A's are kind of the future? And I say the A's because, Algorand, Cardano, the ADA token, and Atom, which is the Cosmos network, me personally, with those three tokens and maybe Bitcoin as a store of value, I don't know that you need anything else.
Yeah. And I think timing is so important, the Bitcoin maxis love talking about the Lightning Network and what that's going to do for them and how they can go do 1 million transactions a second. But I mean, that's getting delayed just like everything going on with Ethereum. I don't know if they'll have the type of throughput that would allow you to just use Bitcoin in the world where we're heading. It'll be a race. I don't think they're going to win it. But I like the store value idea. I own Bitcoin. It's one of the last things I'd sell.
See, that's the thing. So I am, I'm not a anything maxi, but there is nothing better than Bitcoin for what Bitcoin does, right? As a store of value, people can say whatever they want about the price, but for what Bitcoin is, someone was asking the other day. It was on the MoneyMorning show. They said, "Well, what's the next Bitcoin?" Oh, Bitcoin. Like there doesn't need to be a next Bitcoin. There's Bitcoin. So I still feel like for what Bitcoin is, nothing else solves that. And yes, maybe it's slow and it's a little bit clunky, but it's incredibly rigid and secure and safe. And as you have the Ethereum miners leave, that's basically the last show in town as far as proof of work. Sure, you have Filecoin, but who knows how they'll adjust moving forward. There's some smaller Sia coins. Some of these file and data aggregation miners. Yes, those are physical kind of storage based mining or whatever, but Bitcoin will be the last proof of, like, the last big proof of work kind of network, I think. And maybe that's okay.
Yeah, and the only project that you could call complete, where done, it is delivering its purpose, stood the test of time. There's a lot of positives for Bitcoin, And I just brought a friend on into crypto, and I explained it to him using a term you used a couple years back, was Bitcoin being the cleanest dirty shirt in the laundry. I mean, it's not perfect, it's got its problems, but when you compare it to your other options out there, cleanest dirty shirt is a pretty good description.
Yeah, I wear the cleanest dirty shirt every day until it's not the cleanest of the dirty shirts.
Yeah.
Let me say hello to Leadfoot. Leadfoot with AR, I don't know. And the reason I don't know is because I just don't know enough about their ability to kind of melt their way into society, so to speak. Like, could they do they have utility? Yes. Is their use limited? But I almost think that for AR Weave to be super successful, DOT needs to be super successful. And I don't know. I guess I'm not against it. I own AR, but full disclosure, I own some AR Weave. So I'm not a hater by any means. I want it to be successful. But I don't think it's in the top A's, in the same way that I don't know that Avalanche is, to be honest. I feel like Avalanche was an extremely VC pushed token, and sure, it's got value. I just don't know if it's getting adoption. Not really. But we'll see, right? Like, we'll see. There's a chance that Cosmos doesn't get that adoption that I think it deserves. I see Cosmos as potentially a really great kind of a DeFi protocol because I mean, again, they've had fits and starts too, but let's take a look at markets. Because it's green, we probably won't be able to talk about green markets ever again. So at least this is like the first day in months. Bitcoin at 20, almost kind of angling towards 21,000. Ethereum at 1,128. That's way up from the doldrums of Saturday, where it was in the low 900s, about to touch 800. I think for a second it was in the 800s, which is ouch. Cardano right up, just kissing 50 cents. Polkadot has done pretty good. It's up on the week 13%, but it got beat up pretty hard. Avalanche is doing really well. It's up 17% today, but it's up almost 10% on the weeks. That's pretty good. Crappy Inu, we don't care. Matic up 11.5 on the day. Matic is still in a good spot, man. So Matic is one where I don't know if the tech is all that magical, but man, they just keep signing deals. Adam, where are you at with Matic? What's your gut instinct tell you per Matic?
I just made some buys last week, and I love their news, and to me they're one to watch, where it's not like Cardano. It's kind of like I'm watching it, but I'm really checking in 3 years. Is kind of a mentality of selling. But Matic is one of those where after I buy, I'm watching closer to just make sure the project's kind of going along. You don't see any crummy behavior, that kind of thing. Like, they don't fully have my trust, but I think it's still good value right now. Is the way I put it.
So this is an interesting question. Stress Relief asked, you don't believe, so I'll pose this to you. You don't believe that as more money enters a market, it also causes the cycles to extend. I have a theory on that. What's your theory on that, Adam? So more money pours into crypto, let's say. Does that extend, or does that contract or reduce, or how does that affect the markets?
I mean, I feel like, us going from 60 something K down to 20K is a big break in how the cycles all promised us 100K. So, I mean, Bitcoin, I think there's this thing is whenever a expectation and a philosophy and a theory gets too many people on one side of the boat, it just starts heading the other. That just seems to be a general principle in markets. And I feel like that whole guarantee to go to 100K plan B thing just got so heavy, it just went the other way on us. And people way over leveraged, they got punished like they should have, because everybody was promised 100K in that certain time.
Yeah. By the way, let me say hello to Hobby Metzger, Namasteu, Stress Relief, Chicken Killer. What a you bastard. Chicken Killer, White Kid Alert. What's going on? Okay. So let me tell you where I come in on that. I think that as more money enters the market, I don't think it extends or contracts. I think what it does is it closer pegs us to more traditional markets. I've always thought, at least I still think, that there's not enough money in the crypto space for it to even be a real market. So I just don't buy into bull market, bear market. This thing can go bull, bear, whatever in a day and a half, right? Like these numbers in any other market, if these numbers were being posted in the equity space, up 17%, you would say, oh, the S&P's in a bull market. And if the numbers we had over the weekend, you'd say, oh, that's it. It's over. It's all over. There were people coming out saying this time the critics might be right. Bitcoin's going to zero. Get the fuck out of here. Like that kind of whimsical headline chasing bullshit. It's disingenuous for a lot of reasons. So the crypto market's not zero. It's illiquid. But as more liquidity enters, as more money, as more investment enters, I think we become more pegged to traditional markets, because I think that's a sign that more traditional players are entering the space. So that, to me, I start to look at the DNA of the aggregate investor. One of the best things that I think happened to crypto was the NFT spammy dumpster fire thing that happened in 2021, because it took, honestly, most of the dummies, let's call it what it is. Most of the super degen gamblers, many of them left DeFi for the degen space of the NFT space, right? Buy something on Friday, sell it on Tuesday, get a 17x, woo-woo. And that worked for 3 tokens and everybody else got nuked. And so when you took the degens out, what did you have left? You had the people that simply won't sell, okay? So they're not trading in anemic markets. You have the institute, whatever kind of hedge fund money, not really insti money, but hedgy money that was in. They're only going to sell when they have to sell, which we saw probably a little bit of that over the weekend. But for the most part, hedge funds that have bought in and are buying consistently and have long-term vision, they're not selling. So who's left? There's only a few people left. And the retail investors that are buying, they've obviously come to the conclusion that it's safe to buy. So the long unwind of all that is, I guess the conclusion is, I think as more money enters the space, it becomes more similar to the existing the retail equity markets, because the DNA of the average investor is the same. So if the NFT market hoovered up the dummies and all that's left is hedge money, retail money, or early adopter money, you're still going to get anemic markets with huge price swings. But the more money that comes in, the more similar we become to the equity space. And that's just any market maturing, right? All markets at some point are correlated, right? Whenever anything's selling, everything is selling. So that's what my gut instinct is, which I guess there's a lot to it. What do you think is the next leg up, Adam? What would be a leg up for crypto?
I mean, I think the obvious one would be, it's kind of like looking at Bitcoin in tens of thousands, right? Bitcoin up in the 30s and then in the 40s. I think that's kind of how I'd see the legs. I think that's what, the whole market is really still priced in, and I don't see a problem with that, but that's how I'd see it, And I think if Bitcoin does go down into the mid-teens, I think it's just great time to lean in if you still have cash on the table. In my personal opinion, is what I'm doing, not advice, but yeah.
What would you be buying right now if you're looking at this market? Like, I'll admit what I've been buying and what I continue to buy. What would you buy right now? Someone said, "Here's $10,000. What are you buying?"
So I'm a little different because I know I'm underweight in some things that I'd like to be more weighted in. I've got 8 different days. So the two or three big ones that I was looking at that I did put make a push in was Matic and Algorand. And the more I follow those, the more I like both those two. And then the next one I'm looking at is Near. If Near takes a big dip, I'll lean into that as my third. And then after that, I've been trying to catch up, doing more research on the AI space, which is I want to learn more before I, hit the gas there. But that would be then where I see it. I'm also interested in what the time frames look like in the AI space. When's the right time? Which is you'll never be perfect, but in 2 years kind of.
Yeah.
Man.
So what I'm looking at right now, because Cardano did what it did. See, like a lot of people got really punished in this market, and I know it sucks, but for those of us that were early Cardano, we're still way up.
Yeah.
Right. Like we're still like my average price in Cardano is negative money because of staking.
Right.
Because I was like I think when I last checked, I was at 3.2 cents before the run. And then I sold off enough where I'm at like -1. I'm at like infinity. So, unfortunately I sold back into Bitcoin, but I sold back into Bitcoin in like the 40s. So while that got clipped, I'm at a scot-free position in Cardano. So it's nothing but profit. So when a lot of people were getting punished these last few days, I was like, as long as you're not taking leverage, you're fine. Just don't borrow, right? If you just don't borrow, you'll be fine. But
and I hope this market, this lesson right here is just the power of being able to stake and earn tokens in a decentralized way without relying on somebody like Celsius to create a earning potential, right? To where you can have 100% control and still earn at a 3 to 6% rate, which I think is a nice sweet spot for the amount of float that you want to add back into the market. Otherwise, I think it goes the other way. But different topic.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So where I'm kind of adding is, I was adding Matic. So here's what I've added over the last week: Matic, Near, Algorand, a little bit of Cosmos, and again, we're adding through staking. But I added Nexo at 56. But I've been adding Nexo ever since it got below $1, because when markets turn around, that Nexo token skyrockets. I was adding. I added some Fetch. I added some AGIX, and I haven't yet. What is going on with LooksRare? What a joke. And I added NewNet. Look at this. It's up 123% based on nothing, zero volume, no activity. I would almost guarantee you that they're pumping it out to influencers and telling people to gamble into it. Be very careful.
Yeah, to have the people behind it get their exits, right?
Be very careful, man. That is probably the riskiest of the tokens. And it's still going up. Why wouldn't it be going up? Why wouldn't it? They're doing no. Let's see if they change their rewards. Let's see.
Right.
No, 54, 45%. That's not exciting enough based on nothing else. So I would say, right now. Okay. So let's do this. So we talk about this kind of idea of a November price sheet and a November cheat sheet. Paul, what's going on? Flying Knee, what's up? Brian, what up? And so the November Shata, what's up? Shout out to Shata. So what I do is I look at my core assets and I say to myself, okay, of the core assets that I have, where are they right now? And this is how I rebalance. And then I look at November, right? So if you're looking at Bitcoin, don't look at Bitcoin right now and say, well, it's 20,000. It could go to this. It could go to that. But I have a theory, and my theory is we do see those November levels again. If we don't, crypto's dead. So if you believe that crypto will survive, Adam, do you believe we will see those November levels again?
At some point, absolutely. I mean, yeah.
Now, I don't know if all the tokens, but I believe that my core assets will see November highs again. So that's how I'm weighting the way I'm buying. And so when I say, well, there's a potential for 500%, well, let's do some just quick math. Do you remember the November highs for Bitcoin? September, November.
67K?
67 on some exchanges, 69. So there's 250%, 240%. Do you remember Ethereum high?
4K?
4,900, I think.
Wow. Yeah.
At the very high. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
It got right there. Let's go back. Let's do a 12-month. Come on, spinning wheel. So I'm pretty sure that those were. Wow, it's really I guess I'm not the only one that's curious about that. But I think we hit. Okay, that's not happening. All right, so I think our November highs were about 4,900, 48. Someone can correct me there. Cardano, do you remember where we were at?
340.
Yeah.
$3.40.
We definitely intraday were over 320 on a few exchanges. But
320. You're
look,
right.
minimum $3. Even if you give it just $3, that's a 6x.
And I think that tech and reach and everybody that's building on top of it, and I mean, whether you're in DeFi or not, it definitely has a price impact on the token. And I think Cardano's going to be in such a better place next year than they were in November when it was at that high. It seems like a good play.
Well, and they're still onboarding people, in Africa. This digital identity program that they're doing, that didn't stop because Bitcoin went down, right? Like nothing that Michael Saylor does over at MicroStrategies affects, people in Africa, students in Africa onboarding digital identity.
Nick, I got to tell you one cool thing, man. I hit that Cardano event in Austin. That was the day before Consensus. And, Charles went up, gave a great speech. One thing was cool is it wasn't like everybody was just fanboying him like he was, the second coming. People listened, clapped, gave him respect. But people were really getting involved in all these other little satellite projects, asking questions. Their devs were there engaging. What's going on with this and that? And it was very interesting to see all the kind of fire and passion and enthusiasm in all these other projects that were spinning up at the event, which I thought was way cooler than I thought it was just going to be a big kind of fanboy Charles thing. And it wasn't. It was a nice environment, in my opinion.
Yeah. This is an interesting point. By the way, thank you, Brian. So the story of Bitcoin, this is from Mossad. The story of Bitcoin as an inflation hedge has been revealed to be a complete joke. It's arguably the most speculative of risk assets. No reason it doesn't trade materially lower as weak hands fold. And then he said, no reason these things don't see new highs in 10 years. Well, here's what I would say to that. I would say that 10 years seems a little bit out there. I really think the psychological cycles in the crypto space are a lot faster. And this isn't a fully formed, saturated market. There's not a lot of liquidity. You're right that it gets incredibly weak when there's anemic trading, when there's low liquid trading, which these are based, even Bitcoin is illiquid, if we're being honest. It's illiquid assets on illiquid exchanges being traded by, rubes for the most part, because everybody that believes in its holding and everybody that doesn't is trading, and everybody that really doesn't is just not in the market. Is Bitcoin an inflation hedge? No, but I've never thought that. I've always thought that it was an inverse to bad behavior. When you see bad behavior in the world, to me, it makes sense to hold some of your assets in some not directly correlated asset, in some place where it's at least safe from repossession, theft, greed, dirt, whatever. So if I see bad behavior at the central banking level, if I see bad behavior in markets, if I see bad behavior, degeneracy and gambling, if I just see bad behavior, then I feel like, well, maybe it makes sense to have a little bit of my money in Bitcoin. And I think that's what Bitcoin is. It's just this other asset. It's a little bit better at gold at many things, transportability, divisibility, fungibility, things like this. Is it an inflation hedge? No, either is gold. The inflation hedge is competent investing. There is no thing you can buy. You can't even buy tips because, tips aren't really an inflation hedge. They're a kind of quasi hedge based on however they assign that rate to those tips, but that's not even a pure inflation hedge because that's based on CPI, which I don't think is even a fair measure of inflation.
Man, I just read Jeff Snyder's article he put out, and I'm not even that smart to understand everything in it, but he was more describing it as a euro-dollar scarcity problem, as a solution to a euro-dollar scarcity problem. And I thought that was a very interesting use case for something like Bitcoin.
Well, think about the euro dollar itself, right? What was the euro dollar an answer for? An illiquid US dollar. Right? Illiquid markets where there wasn't free flowing cash and credit availability. And, like in the dinosaur movies, that life finds a way, liquidity finds a way. And if you don't create pathways of liquidity, enterprising individuals will create pathways of liquidity. In the 50s, in the mid 50s, we had the euro dollar system, the shadow banking system that kind of evolved out of this murky inability to extend to create enough liquidity in the US dollar to, Triffin's dilemma, right? But even before Robert Triffin was in front of Congress talking about the dilemma, it had already been solved by the euro dollar, right? These dollars that were lended into existence outside the US regulatory system. And it could be thought, well, maybe Bitcoin is kind of like the euro dollar and then it evolved out of a need for different forms of liquidity. So this is kind of an interesting, I think Jeff is on it. He understands money flow better than, I don't know too many people that understand it the way he does. So yeah. Okay. So looking at that, let's do some more. We had Polkadot got up to, it was 50 or over $50. Well, that's like that's an easy 6x, 6 and change, 6.23, 6.25x. From here, so that's 625%. So you see where we're going with this? Like, let's skip over the dummy coins. I don't know Avalanche. I'll look, but I don't know a lot about Avalanche. God, it's still not producing these results. I don't know enough about Avalanche's history. Let's see if it gives us any. Well, we can make some estimations, can't we? I thought Avalanche went on a big fat run. If it's down 80%, then it must have like a 4x in it. So it must have been what, 80 in the $80 range, $80 to $100 range. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong about that.
Google even tells me it was 146.
Jesus. So there you go. So there's a 750% potential move. So, and again, I'm not saying Avalanche, I'm not so sure because I don't know. I don't know enough about kind of moving forward for them, but it's interesting. Matic was at what, nearly $3 for a moment?
Yeah. Google tells me high twos. Yeah.
So that's a 720% move. Near was at $20. That's 700. So maybe my 500 was a little generous. I mean, what wasn't generous enough? Algorand was high twos, right? 280, 270.
237.
237. So how do you get to what, 760%?
Yeah.
So I mean, you just look at these numbers. Axie Infinity was over 100. Now, okay, I don't consider Axie Infinity a quality asset, but I do consider Cosmos a quality asset. That was in the mid 30s, was it not? 34, 35?
This is saying January 2022, 44.
40. Okay. So $44. So now you're at what seven? That's a 600 and change, 640, 650%. So you're starting to see that these numbers, if you believe that the crypto space is just going to get back to where it was, even if you don't think we're ever going to move forward, if we're just going to get back to where it was, you have 500 to 700% in quality assets. Okay, if you only get half of them right and the other half go to dust, but your portfolio is balanced, that's still a 350% return. That's still a 3.5x on your money. And I think it's very fair to say, again, this is on the weak assumption of the future being similar to the past, but I don't think the crypto space is going to quit. And I think it's a fair assumption to say that at least half of the quality assets will reach their goals, will reach their price points from 7 months ago. If only half reach their goals and you buy in a balanced way, that's a 350% run. I don't know anywhere else where you almost knew that 350% was in the cards. What is your thought on that, on this thesis?
Yeah, I know. I don't disagree, and I think it'll reward the long term holders. I think we don't know if that means 6 months or 2 years. But I think if you are set up to invest in quality projects that can sustain that time period, I think there'll be a good reward for you.
If you do like the AI space, real quick, by the way, Fetch was over $1, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, but I think Fetch was $1.12.
Yep. It says $1.19.
Okay, $1.19. We're at 8 cents. So that's a 12x, bro. 12 minimum, 13x.
More, yeah.
Yeah, and you think you think AI is done? AI is finished. They're just gonna quit. AGIX, it's at 4.5 cents. AGIX was at 66, right?
This is saying the all-time high January. Oh well, that's 2018.
Don't do 2018. Yeah. Do 2021, 22.
Yeah. Too high. Yeah, 66 cents.
66 cents from 4. So that's a 1,500% run if we just get back. And listen, if you're curious, well, Michael, I know that Solana was over 250, but I don't think Solana is going back to its highs.
Well, and that's that litmus test you got to do. How are they going to be in the time it takes Bitcoin to get back to the 60K with every level? How are they going to be set up in that forward-looking 6 months from now? And Solana's got to go through all this news of so many people getting burning people that have too much Solana. I mean, it's horrible.
So here's a good question. So Todd by the way, Todd, what's going on? GRC, what's going on? Michael, what's going on? So his question is, as we move into Tuesday when the markets open up after a long weekend, do you see a retracement back to red market? I think there's a lot of punishment. I think there's two ways I think this goes. One, you have the long weekend where people calm down and kind of cooler heads prevail. But we haven't had anything but basically punishment for the last, 12 days, right? Until today. So this to me looks more like a relief rally. I don't think we've a bottoms in. And that doesn't mean that I'm saying prices go lower. I'm talking about a psychological bottom. I think we need to know we need to know for sure what's going on with Celsius. Like, is anybody going to get anything back? I believe people will get 75, 80 cents on the dollar back. So that'd be cool. At least if people knew they were getting something back. I'd like to see what the Three Arrows Capital unwind looks like as it slowly unwinds. I don't think they're going to get a lifeline. I think they're finished. And I don't think they should. To be honest, they're arrogant douchebags. Those guys were talking cash shit when they were doing good. And then they were panicking and liquidity providers were cutting off their lifeline, all this kind of stuff. Everybody does good. Everybody looks like a hero when markets are going up. You're measured by what you do when markets are going down. You're measured by what happens. Like over the last 12 days, the way you behaved, that's your DNA as an investor. If you were giving it the sad bastard to everyone that will listen, if you're feeling sorry for yourself and all these things, that's fine. But you got to understand that when you hit the bad news, that's how you're going to behave. That's when you need to have your wits together. That's when you need to have your mind clear and consistent and your behavior consistent and not emotionally attached, meaning don't take on leverage. If you don't have debt to service, you're cool. You think Michael Saylor has slept? He's probably aged 47 years in the last 2 weeks.
Oh man, being in that guy's shoes and then having to lie to all your friends and all your followers, like I mean, and then you just keep seeing this repeated behavior from everybody right before they go underwater. You saw the same thing from Machinsky. Oh, don't worry, nothing's wrong here. I'm so rich.
Everything's fine. I'm rich. Oh, you're rich. Well, we're fine. Whew. I was worried that you weren't rich, Alex, and that you really weren't going bankrupt like everybody says.
Yeah, I mean, you're just starting to see a pattern with Do Kwon. Same thing. Oh, we're fine. Everything's great. It's like, uh-oh.
Michael Saylor, Do Kwon, these guys at Three Arrows, like you just go down the list. I think there's a good chance I think Galaxy may be in trouble. I know that they're cheap into Bitcoin and they're cheap into Ethereum, but they've made some hugely bad bets. I mean, huge. I think Galaxy Digital's days are numbered, because even if they don't get nuked in this one, they're going to get nuked because they don't know how. They're not competent investors. If you've got money in Galaxy, just be careful. I don't think Novogratz really gets it. I think he's a really smart guy in many ways. I don't think he's a good investor. I don't think he really understands innovation in the crypto space. He certainly didn't understand it when he got fired at Goldman, and he didn't understand it when he got nuked out of his own fund in the traditional equity space. I don't know why everybody thinks he understands it, because he wears blue tinted glasses in the crypto space. He failed at Goldman, nuked. He failed at his own fund. He got fired out of his own fund that he founded, nuked. He went over to Galaxy. Why would that be any better? Only because people don't remember he got nuked. You know, these guys, the dudes at Real Vision, they keep getting caught pulling scams. What else do you need to know? The dudes at Solana, they lie, they cheat, they steal against everyone. They stole $1 billion in tokens. What else do you need to know? Like, people, and I get these like emails like, man, you were right about that. I was like, no, not just me. Like, common sense was right. I was just one of many voices of reason. Bro, I don't have a crystal ball. Like, you don't need a crystal ball to know that, like, if your kid's bus driver really believes in Santa Claus, get your kids off the fucking bus.
Yeah.
Because that's not a competent bus driver. That's a grown man that can't make logical decisions. Like, something's wrong. And when you see that behavior in the people that you're investing in, get your money the fuck out of their hands. Like, is there anybody on your radar right now, Adam, that you're like a little bit queasy?
Who's next?
Who's next?
Avalanche scares me a little bit, as far as who's coming out. And I think a lot of the dApps sitting on top of Ethereum. And I think a lot of that's taking a lot of people that are sure it's going to come up in September when they're going to make the merge or whatever. I think there's about to be some blood still left to spill at Ethereum. In my mind. And I think the other thing is that sometimes it can be hard to explain the importance of decentralization. It just kind of sounds like a theory, but sometimes it's easier to point to what it's not. You know, like what happened with Soul End and how they just voted the guy with a big stake where one guy could vote multiple times and just liquidate somebody. That's just a great example of what decentralization is not, and how scary it can be when you're.
Can you explain that? Because a lot of people are reading about that. They don't really know what's going on. But just give like a super simple kind of what's going on over there.
Okay, so there's this pool. It's called Soul End. It's part of it's a dApps on top of Solana, and there's kind of a bit of a made up governance there. There's some governance there, which it's a bit like the prisoners running the jail. And what they did was that there was one large whale with a whole lot of Solana, with millions of dollars of Solana. And what they did was they came together and voted to liquidate him out of their pool because they saw that he had so much he could sway everything with the percentage of ownership that he had. And so they just basically voted him out. And it wasn't even a fair vote. They only needed 1% of voters to vote, and they got to 1.4 or something. But 1.2% of those voters was one person voting multiple times because they don't have DIDs or any type of authority to come in and say, hey, let's make sure everybody's voting.
So the vote was phony. Yeah.
The vote was phony. And then so just because a guy had a lot of money and didn't even act with any malintention, liquidated. And I think to even have, your money in that space after you see something like that, it's like, how can you see this kind of behavior and still have trust,
So, and this was a good, so Luke, kind of following along on that, Luke said, I've never read anywhere Solana devs stole 1 billion. Where do I find? Okay, so let me tell you what happened. It didn't end up in their back pocket. Well, no one knows where it is. There was 12.3 or 12.2 million tokens that were discovered. And they were discovered. This was all aired out on Twitter. You can go find this because there's, I forget the guy, but he does really good research. But anyway, they aired it out on Twitter. They said, and the devs at Solana first they denied. Then they were exposed like through like chain analytics. And they were said, oh, well, those were tokens that we had put aside for a market maker. Like, what do you mean put aside? Like, where are they? Well, we're going to burn them. They said, we're going to burn them because we realize this looks bad. Look, whether they were stealing them, you tell me what they were doing. 12.3 million tokens went missing. They got found in a private wallet that were earmarked for a market maker. Okay, cool. They then said publicly, we realized we made a mistake. We weren't completely honest. This is all, they said all this. Well, we're going to burn them. For the sake of the network, we're going to burn them. We're going to just get rid of them. Okay, cool. Burn them. And then they didn't burn them. They said, no, burn them. Go on, burn. And remember, this is when Solana is like $200. So that's 12.3. Anybody want to do the math on that? 12.3 million times $230. What are we at? 1.2.5 billion dollars. It's a lot. It's like so much money. So they said, we're going to burn the tokens. Did they burn them? No. Did they burn them? No. People on Twitter, hey, when are you going to burn these tokens? They burnt 3 million of the 12 million and like 9 and change. And I don't know what the exact change was, like 9.2 million tokens, still at around $200. Never burned, private wallet. And then the devs at Solana, oh, man, let's just move past that. The founders, let's just move on. Let's just move past that. You can't move past that. So if you just look at the behavior and just ask yourself, is this a team I want to be invested in? A team that will lie, they will cheat, they will steal, and their network doesn't even work. Like, even if you get rid of all the bad kind of quasi gross behavior, their network still does not, it's not a network, it's a net broke. They're running a net broke. Like, even a broken like analog watch works twice a day, right? So that's basically how they were. And then every time their net broke fails, because it always fails, the founder comes out and goes, so what if it takes 72 hours to clear a transaction? Are you insane? No enterprise is going to build on that. You're going to go court a bank and tell them, look, we have 20% uptime. They're like, wait, what? Yeah, we're 20% of the time we're on. We're good. We're doing it. We're crushing it. What do you mean? That's not a thing. If you can hold your breath between the network being turned on and it being turned off again. So this thing with SolLend is just another example that no one's in control over there. The thing is it's just a quagmonic mess. And if you go all the way back to the beginning, you find that Solana was a weak project built on weak game theory, and that's no longer conjecture. It's clearly exposed by its lack of liveness and termination, right? Like, you have to have liveness and termination in a network, or it's not a fucking network. It's just some computers and some surfer dudes that got a bunch of VCs excited, and they pushed it on the public, and a bunch of dummies bought up the token and swam the value up and convinced a bunch of idiots to buy it. And then they bought it. And then as the truth started coming out, the fact that look, I hate on Ripple, not XRP. I hate on Ripple because of Brad and because of Chris. But Ripple, the company, makes sense to me. Like, I like what the company's doing. I just don't like those two guys. And XRP, the token, as is now kind of mostly designed by David Schwartz, right? David Schwartz is a beast. So there's a lot to like about everything other than those two dudes. But those two dudes are enough to keep me away because they are the worst. The only problem with Ripple and XRP is those two dudes. They lied, they cheated, they stole a little bit. So I don't want to be involved. If they go away, I'm heavy. I would be willing to go heavy into XRP again if I saw that, again, if I didn't think technology had maybe passed them by, which I think maybe it has. But it's just two creepy dudes over there, and I'm out. You look at the behavior at Solana. There's no reason. It's worse. It's worse than Luna, because Luna is a Ponzi scheme that they didn't want to fail. They just hoped that they had picked the right time to tack on the UST to the Luna network with Anchor. They figured that market go up and everything would be fine. They'd never get an unwind. But that's not how it works. Now, maybe there was some theft over with the Luna Foundation group. That'll all come out in court, I'm sure, because haven't seen the end of it. But the point to all this is when you see these very obvious points where people are stealing, they're lying, they're cheating, and they're stealing, get the fuck out of their network. Don't support them. Don't buy up their token. Just go to a quality project. The cool thing in crypto, there's tons of quality projects. And if nothing looks like quality, just buy Bitcoin and sit on the sidelines. Like, I get why I don't know why people would stay a maxi, but I do get why people get reduced to being maxis, because they look at there's so much bad behavior in the crypto space that it does tend to push you, and just maybe you want to reduce thinking and say, screw this, man. I get it. I mean, what do you think? Why does a man or woman become a maxi, Adam?
I mean, I think that's just old social behavior, you know? I think that they find a little group they feel comfy in and trust, and then they just get locked in and no new thinking, and they just get kind of stuck. And you know, and then they do get the confirmation bias of the Solanas and the Lunas, and you see that kind of thing, and then they just write out, oh, shit coins, you know, and then you're done. I mean, I see your favorite economist Lynn Alden's still doing it about all proof of stake. This is why it's a proof of work versus proof of stake battle, because hey, look what happened to Solana. And it's like, that is so short-sighted that you just haven't researched enough of all the other projects out there. You saw Solana, that represents all 1,000 proof of stake projects, and it's like, okay, whatever.
When people just look at numbers and they don't understand game theory behavior, then there's no way they can really understand. So simply being an engineer, it's not enough. Being an engineer is not enough. You got to understand game theory, because the fundamental flow, the fundamental thesis behind these projects, these are game theoretical systems, and there are very clear fundamental kind of laws in and around game theory, especially algorithmic game theory and the underlying calculus and math that clearly state what can and can't be accomplished, right? Like as you look for, you know, liveness and termination and things like this, and you look at these things that have to exist in a network, even at the inception of some of these protocols, you have to be able to in your mind separate proof of stake and proof of work. Has nothing to do with the underlying game theory that fundamentally drives the wide swath of different proof of stake assets. Because like when you have stake pools, that doesn't mean that that consensus is derived in the same way on the same code. It isn't proof of stake versus proof of work. That's just a super sloppy, very, you know, cognitively weak way of looking at this space.
Agreed. Absolutely.
And Lynn's better than that, man.
Yeah, I agree. Especially if you're going to comment that much about crypto and that little about the equity space, which is where you're more comfortable in. You need to do some more research before you just make those large generalities that are dangerous.
And Lynn, and I'm not a hater too. I really like Lynn's content. I think she's very interesting. She understands a lot. I do think she gets locked up in what she believes macro should do versus what it does do. And there's a little armchair quarterbacking in that. I believe she makes assumptions and she says, well, this must do this must do this because Austrian versus Keynesian. And she's on the right track. But these are markets with humans. And if you rule out game theory and the underlying math, you're never going to get crypto right. Because it's all of the worst parts of equity plus really intense math. And if your math is a little bit wrong, you hoover up billions of dollars, just light them on fire. And that's been happening a lot. And we're seeing it. Bad math is bad math, bro. Even if it's just a decimal. Listen, a decimal is deadly.
Yeah.
Okay, Adam, final thoughts as we go into this week. What do you expect, tomorrow to kind of go off of some of the earlier questions? What do you think happens tomorrow?
Oh man, I got no clue. I mean, I'll just say it'll be slightly red since it's so green today, and that is just me taking a wild guess. I think we might have some more pain over the next 6 months. It seems like liquidations aren't done. I'm really curious to see where's all that, Bitcoin, does that happen with Luna? Does that get dumped on the market? There could be some more, Bitcoin being dumped on the market due to liquidations, like forced liquidations, and that might cause more pain. But, we just don't know. It seems like we're at a low. It's good dollar cost averaging point to just, put in small chunks because you'll never call a perfect bottom. But, I think that's my thoughts. Good opportunities these next 6 months.
I agree. I think one person calls the top, one person calls the bottom, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, I know. He's clever, that guy. But you know what? It is what it is. Okay, everyone, have a great Monday. Have a great holiday. Go eat some stuff that you'll feel guilty about. You've earned it. Don't let these markets stress you out. You have your November cheat sheet. Do a little napkin math. I think there's a lot of pent up opportunity. And I think if you're buying quality assets with quality teams where the tokenomics makes sense, the technology makes sense, and the timing is somewhat right, I think you're going to be just fine. So just relax, have some fun. Don't do anything my poor insolvent drunk strung out on meth grandmother wouldn't do, or don't do anything that Adam wouldn't do. And as you guys know, Adam pretty much does. He does all of it. And don't do anything Nancy Pelosi wouldn't do.
Ooh, I got mentioned the same breath as Nancy Pelosi. Thanks for that outro.
And we will see you on the next one. If Adam can, I'm gonna bring him back next Monday because we will be on the precipice of those upgrades. And I think it's important we should look at those as they're kind of happening. So hopefully he'll make some time for us. And we will see you guys on the next one.